does it help that maybe you're starting to get a little continuity on the offensive line?
Yeah, I think that always helps. I think practice is the time where there's a lot of different guys out there. Guys are getting reps, guys might be tired or dealing with some stuff. So there's always kind of revolving door of guys moving around, trying different spots. So I think you get used to that. I think the game is when you want to get more solidified and things happen in the game. But I think practice is always the time to try new things out.
How much is your confidence level just in Jordan Morgan being over there kind of gone up as the camp's going on?
Yeah, no, I think he's done some great things. I think he's definitely improved tremendously. And I think it's one of those things where I just want to get to the games and see how we just keep building and how he looks out there. But definitely got a lot of confidence in him, a lot of trust. And it's one of those things where, my back's going to be to him all game. So got to have that confidence that he's going to hold it down, and he's been doing great things.
Where have you seen that improvement from him?
I think just his consistency, understanding in protection how he needs to move and where really the pocket is for me. I think understanding, for a tackle, it's all about understanding the drop back. What type of footwork am I taking? Am I getting a 7-step drop? Am I taking a 3-step drop? And understanding where he can push the DNs. I think just it takes a feel for that. And I think that's where he's improved. I think as an O-line, understanding where you're going in the run game, targets, who we're blocking, I think that's something that it just takes time to keep building, keep getting reps, and I think he's definitely improved on that.
Tucker was explaining to us yesterday why he's practicing without a new contract and just how much he cares about the team. You guys voted him as a captain last year when he was 24 years old. Why is he such a beloved player and person in this building?
Oh, man. What you're going to get from Tuck. He talks to you guys. I'm sure you guys can feel the same stuff. That's the same way he talks to us. He's a guy that he wants to be out there. He wants to earn everything he does. I think for him, coming off the injury he had last year, he's missed so much time where he's hungry to be back out there and get rolling and start making plays now. And he knows all that stuff. Every rep he gets is going to carry over the season and make him that much more comfortable and that much better. So, I think that's something that, you hope it gets done quick. Obviously, I think he feels the same way. You never know with these things. It may take time, but I think for him, so much of it is he missed so much time. He's hungry. He wants to be out there, and we all know what Tucker brings to the table.
What did you think of his David Tyree impersonation today with the helmet catch with one hand?
That was crazy. It's one of those balls, I threw, and as I threw it, I seen Keyshawn kind of falling off. I was like, I think I overthrew this one, and that's just a crazy catch by him, making a one-handed play. But that's just some of the magic he brings to the field.
The uncertainty and the shuffling in guard, how does that affect you?
Yeah, no, I think it's one of those things like I talked about. We've dealt with that. We've dealt with some uncertainty of guys playing different positions, injuries happening, guys bouncing around. So right now I think it's great. I think it's great that everybody's getting as many reps as possible. O-line's kind of moving pieces and guys are able to still communicate and work on stuff together. I think once we get in the season, once we get guys back healthy, we'll solidify a couple more things. But you know how the season goes. Injuries happen, things happen. So I think it's always best that guys get reps, and especially with the ones with this group, because you never know how the season's going to go. We might need these guys to step up, play different positions. So I think it's good right now.
How are you approaching this preseason game with Matt saying it'd likely be, the last one that you play in with the joint practice next week? And anything you took away from the first one?
Yeah, no, I think it'll be good. Be able to get out there. Team we played last year. I seen some of the stuff they did last week. They played a good amount of their starters as well, so it'll be good. Be able to go out there and play against them, and we'll see how much we play. I'm not sure yet. And like you mentioned, this will be our last test, game reps before week one. So it'll be good to go out there and just have another test, see some new looks, see some new coverages, and make sure everything's on point going into the season.
Matt was telling us about the competitiveness of this group, and he obviously says it every year. He always wants competition. As a leader of this team, can you sense that level of competition, that edge that everyone's bringing?
Definitely. I think the past 2 days we've been out in the field, we've had some longer practices, and there's been some good team periods of just good on good competitive practices, and you can feel it. You can feel it starting to build, and it always does around this time of training camp. Guys get tired of going against each other, and it starts getting a little more chippy out there. But no, you definitely feel the competitive edge, and I think in these longer practices, you really got to dig deep, and it's a lot like a game. The amount of reps we're getting, guys are getting tired, having to fight through all the fatigue and everything that comes with it. So you definitely feel that competitive edge, and now it's just about finding ways to improve and take it to the opponent.
What good does that do for this team, that competitive edge and finding that? Because obviously at some point in the preseason you have to. With the season, like, what good does that do for this team?
Yeah, I think it gets us better. You know, good on good, competitive stuff. It makes people better. It makes you be at your best, and learn from the mistakes you made. But that's how the game is. That's how the season is. You know, it's going to be the most competitive week every single week in the NFL. So you just got to get your mind right for it.
For competition.
That Kyle's put together, so far this summer, being able to come in here as that QB3 spot, kind of picking up this offense.
No, I think he's done some good things. You know, I think it's always tough in the 3 and 4 spot and quarterback during training camp because you're splitting reps. It's just very limited reps for the guys, and I think especially for him being his first year here with the team, it's always tough. But I think he's done a great job, and I think in the game he did some impressive things, which is very cool to see. And so I think obviously we all know what happened with KD as well. So I think for Kyle, that's another good thing for him. Now he gets more reps to keep building on. But like I said, I think he did some good things in the game, and it's just about building on it. But it's cool to see.
During one-on-ones, everyone's watching the pass catchers and the DBs, but the quarterbacks are part of that as well. Today, Sky Moore against X, they each got the better of each other once. How much do you feel a part of that, and how much do you want your guy to win that? And what's it like to watch through your lens for those?
Oh, man, you always want to win on one-on-ones. And, as a quarterback, you're just trying to make sure you get a good ball for the guy, make sure he runs a good route. But, that's a competitive period. Guys are getting up, getting bumped, and they got to find ways to win the routes and obviously win the catch. But especially in the red zone, it gets a little tighter down there. We don't have as many routes to run, so it's definitely a competitive period down there.
Now you've had a year to work with. What's the difference you see in Matthew Gould this season versus rookie year?
I think just I think he's a confident guy, but I think just his, how fast he's playing right now. It all comes with reps, and I think last year, as a rookie, it's tough. He did a lot of good things, but I think there was some times where, he figured out and went back and watched the film of ways he can win on routes versus different looks, and some new things he can try. And I think now he's just going out there and he's putting it all together right now. So it looks great. I'm excited to see him when we get to the season, but he's making plays. We all know what he can do when the ball's in the air, the types of catches he can make. So I think for him, it's just understanding how to run routes a certain way, how to get open, the timing. He's doing a great job.
How would you assess that Brandon Cisse is doing going up against him in practice?
Yeah, Cisse's doing good as well. Like you said, that's the stuff you love to see. The competitive periods. Cisse being a rookie, I think he's done a lot of great things. And I think for him, it's just continue to understand the coverages, the scheme, and how to be his best. But I think he's been very sticky in some of the coverages and made it tough on some of the reads.
You told us a lot about how your footwork is one thing you wanted to improve in the pocket. Like in terms of that and development, and obviously you're always going to want to work on it and get better at it. How do you feel like you've grown in a department that you've told us that you wanted to grow?
Yeah, I think I think for me it's just consistency. I think I've had so many reps now where I can do stuff, and I've done all the footwork on our offense. So it's just about building that consistency and doing it over and over and over again. And I think the big thing I want to work is in the pocket. When the pocket's starting to close, or I got to make movements in the pocket, staying on balance, and still being able to make accurate throws while navigating the pocket. I think when I can sit there in the pocket, throw on time, throw with a hitch, be balanced, that's the easy stuff. I think it's about when things are closing down, breaking down, and you almost feel rushed of trying to find ways to escape and make a throw. That's where I want to just keep finding consistency.
Jordan, we had Aaron on a conference call last week, and he was talking about how it took time, I think even 3 or 4 years in his career before he felt like McCarthy would really fully cut him loose and he could go to him. And it took that give and take or back and forth developed, but not right away. Mm-hmm. Are you at that point in your career where you and Matt are at that point, do you think, where he just fully trusts you and you can say whatever to him?
Definitely. I definitely believe Matt fully trusts me. And it's something that, like you mentioned, it takes time to be able to build those relationships, the understanding for each other, be able to talk to each other about certain things we like and don't like. So it takes time, and for that relationship, for Matt as a play caller, to be able to trust that whatever he calls, I'm going to be able to make the right decisions. Like I said, it just takes time, and it takes reps and doing the right thing over and over again. So I definitely feel like Matt trusts me, and we're at that point.
Jordan, Matt shared that in spare moments he's peeking at the Vikings. Are you?
Yeah, I mean, the Vikings are, they're a very good defense. We know what Brian Flores and his scheme is all about. It's one of those defenses where you're going to get a lot. And, I think later in the year it makes it tough because you have so much film to watch and so many different looks to try and break down. You never know what you're going to get when you get to that week. So I think for right now it's just about looking at what they did last year, trying to build on that. But just having the understanding that there's going to be looks that we might not have seen, and that's okay. You got to find ways to. Right now is the time. I think where we're seeing so much from our defense as well, where I think protection-wise is so good on the O-line to be able to go through so many different looks. When we get to our walkthroughs, they're giving us some looks that we might be seeing in that week. But it comes down to just trusting the rules, trusting the fundamentals, finding completions as a quarterback, but. It's definitely one of those defenses where you're going to get some crazy stuff that might make your head hurt looking at it when you get up there to the line of scrimmage. But we know what it's all about. So definitely looking at some of their film already and trying to break that down.
Jordan, a few days ago, Keyshawn said they felt like he was being punished for some reason. Matt this morning said if that's the case, then everybody's being punished because there's competition everywhere. And talking about competition, but could you see any extra urgency from Keyshawn Nixon today?
Man, I think Keyshawn's always trying to put his best foot forward when he's out there on the field. I think everybody is. Like you mentioned, the competition is every level. Every position's fighting for a job, fighting to be their best. So, it is what it is. And I think he knows that. Keyshawn's played a lot of ball in the NFL. He's a vet. He knows what it's all about. So it's just about maximizing yourself. Matt talks about it all the time, we're all competing against ourselves, trying to be the best version of ourselves every day. And, we'll let all the other things kind of play out in terms of who's going to be out there. But it's just about competing against yourself, watching the tape, getting better at little things. But I think Keyshawn knows what he brings to the table and what he needs to work on to get better.
If you only play one drive, what do you feel like you get the most out of in just playing one drive? Because you obviously played NFL games in the past, and that experience is there. But what do you feel like you most get out of it? Where I can only play one drive and I'll still be ready by the regular season.
Yeah, so many things. I mean, like I talked about it last week, it's another away game. So another chance for us to just have that communication in the huddle, make sure everything's on point. We're hearing everything right. It's a lot different than being at practice with just the music blasting. So just being in that environment, if we got to go silent count, working our operation in silent. But just making sure the operation's smooth, everything's crisp. When we're seeing new looks, so make sure everybody's on the same page and really just getting those kind of those game jitters out. So when week one hits, everybody's ready to fly around.
Is there a part of you that's like, ugh, I want to get back out there after that first series? It just feels like it goes so quick.
No, I'm ready to get out of the game for sure. I've been in some preseason games where things happen. You might get hit, take a wrong hit, and now you're out for camp.
Right.
Like last year. So I was definitely glad to get in, get out, be healthy, not take any hits. So that's always the goal.
Jordan, I'm curious. When we talked to Tucker a couple of days ago, he said, anytime someone tries to put him in a box and like he can't do something, whether it's route running or things of that nature, it's like fuel for him, and you could say he uses it. For you, do you use things like that for you personally as motivation? Do you tune it out? I guess what's kind of your process like that?
Man, I think that's a great point that he made. You never want to feel like you're being put in a box or someone's putting a limit on what you can and can't do on the field. And like you said, if that does happen, you obviously want to go out there and prove people wrong and be able to do that. So I think as a player, I always tell our coaches, give me everything that you can as far as knowledge of what I need to do when I'm on the field. Especially early on when I got here, just teach me everything and let me figure out how to go do it on the field. And don't try and hold back on how you coach me or think that I'm not ready for something. I feel like that's how you get better as a player and learn. So I guess for him, you can use that as fuel. At times, depending on who's saying those things, you can block some of that stuff out or use it as fuel.
Thanks, Jordan.
Thanks, Jordan.